Welcome back to For Self-Examination. I am your host, Dr. Christopher Taylor, and I am here today with my best friend, actually, Matt Robinson. Matt, how does the world find you today?
It's great, man. It's cool to be hanging out here with you. I feel like this shouldn't be like work of any kind. This is just me and you talking like we normally do. This is awesome.
Yeah, no, I think this will just be a fun chat. It'll be great. And I think you have a really great and compelling story, so I'm really interested to get into that and learn more
I'm glad you think that. I hope your listeners do. Well, TBD.
I think there's a lot of very interesting things about your life, and I think a lot of people that listen to this are going to love it.
Awesome, man.
All right, well, let's get into it, Matt. Let's see here. Matt, you said the name of the movie of your life, if you had to title a movie of your life, would be Dude, I Have No Idea.
Did I write that, really?
Yeah, so we're here with the story of Matt, Dude, I Have No Idea. Also, Vanilla, a movie that's not great, but also not terrible, about a guy that reflects the same.
I think that's the good one, Vanilla. Yeah, that'd be the name of my movie. If I really had to give, I was thinking about it, but it just seemed corny. Till the Wheels Fall Off would be a good one as well.
Yeah, Till the Wheels Fall Off. But that's the name of your podcast, though.
That's the name of the show, yeah. But that's also, I have a tattoo in my ribs that says Till the Wheels Fall Off that I got long before the show.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's a good segue. Why don't you just tell us the story of Till the Wheels Fell Off? How did that come about? And
the show itself?
No, the tattoo.
Oh, man.
The idea.
I can't remember where I heard it. It was in a movie. It's not of my own creation. It's a term that a lot of people have heard. That was a Western movie of some kind. I think I was in like middle school or high school. I was living at home and it was on the TV, and there was like this couple, and I don't remember if they were like robbing a train or about to jump off of a train or something like that. But the cowboy looked at whatever her name was, Miss Maybell or something, and was like, me and you till the wheels fall off. And I was like, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
And it's not just for relationships for me. It's just in general. It's kind of a mantra I live by. Till the wheels fall off, until I am no longer moving. Like I am trying at the very least.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And so this applies to your marriage as well, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So my wife and I met as 14-year-old high school freshmen, and we've been together ever since. We'll celebrate 25 years together this February. So it's and like together the whole time and through life's typical ups and downs, but as we'll get into, I'm sure, battling addiction, and I think just being rather emotionally immature in general, and having to figure out what it's like to adult and grow up together, and family drama, business drama. Like it's been a hellacious life, man.
Well, take us to freshman year. Walk us through, meeting the girl.
Oh, dude. So you remember AOL Instant Messenger?
I do. Yeah. I can imagine the sound right now.
Yeah.
In fact, we'll try
to sound pad over here.
Yeah, we'll try to edit that in. We'll edit in the AOL.
So that's how I think originally started to talk to her, was through AOL Instant Messenger. We didn't have any classes together because my wife's smart and she was always in honors classes and I was not in honors classes. I had heard about this girl. Her name's Paige. It's my wife's name. And I finally got the chance to meet her in the hallway, and it was like one of those slow motion moments where I remember exactly what she was wearing. She was walking toward me, and it was like slow motion with music playing in the background, and I was like, oh my god, this chick is gorgeous. I started to message her and things like that, and then she had this boyfriend. His guy's name was Keith, I think. And I kind of knew Keith, but not really. And I was talking to him one day on Instant Messenger, and I was asking questions about his girlfriend because I liked his girlfriend, but I didn't want to tell him that. And he was into someone else, I think. I'm not remember the whole deal, but either way, and he asked me if I would call her to break up with her for him. And I was like, absolutely, give me your number.
Happy to do.
And so I called my wife to break up with her on behalf of her current boyfriend. And she was upset, about as upset as a 14-year-old girl would be with the kind of on the outs relationship. And then I asked her, I was like, well, can I call you later? And she said, yeah, absolutely. And so I watched the clock until she got home that night. I called her, and within like a month or so, we were like going out together. We were together for 10 years before we got married in 2011. And there was like a theme in our lives. Like I don't even know how to really describe myself. I would have to let her do that. But I think I've always been right on the edge of being great and never quite there. And I think she recognized that. And so like she had a lot, she was, as I was taking opium, she was taking hopium, hoping that I would grow up, hoping that I would be this awesome guy. And I used to just tell her all the time, like, I promise you one day I'll be a good man. Like, and I would come home stumbling, drunk, or in our like worst moments where I had just done something so stupid, and I could just look in her eyes and just see that she was disappointed. I would just promise her like one day I'll be a good man. Yeah, and I guess we should probably back up from there before we get too deep in the weeds. But Paige has always been Paige has always been like my lighthouse. She's always been like my guiding light. She was like I don't know, man. In a lot of ways, my best friend and like a good influence on me, but in other ways, like someone I just deeply admire and covet and love.
And and you're not being ironic about the opium.
No, I'm not at all. I had an injury. So I broke my leg playing football down here in Texas. You know, every young boy plays football at some point. And I was in middle school and I broke my leg playing football. It was a really bad injury. It took 3 different surgeries to get my leg back right. I had screws and rods inside of it and all kinds of stuff. But I was given prescription opioids. And from the moment I took those things, I fell in love with them. I just fell in love. I thought to myself, this must be how everyone else feels all the time. I think at that age, we all feel kind of lost. Oh, yeah. I was 13, you know, and who knows themselves at 13? And it's just an awkward age. Like, does anyone remember middle school fondly? I don't think any of us do, right?
Let me tell you, I had the coolest pair of green cargo shorts that my mom got pressed for me at the dry cleaners. So they had a nice little crease in them.
Dude, you got to wear them things. You can't crease
I was a fully
cargo
formed,
shorts.
I was a fully formed adult at 13. I knew who I was.
Creased. You got to wear those things wrinkly, first of all. Who's creasing cargo shorts, bro? Oh my gosh. It's just it's that weird age, you know. And then I found this substance that seemed like it just found me, and I had it all figured out. And I knew even at that age it'd be something that I would pursue. I knew it would be something that if I could feel like this all the time, then I would sacrifice anything to do it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I did get that chance. A couple years later, in high school, a friend of mine had a grandparent or something that was getting tons of these things from her doctor, but she never took them. And so I started to buy them.
Right. Yeah.
And it sent me down a dark path. And then I figured out that if you mixed alcohol with them, it was like one of God's great combos. It was like chips and queso, or chocolate and peanut butter. Opiates and alcohol were like my thing. And so I started to drink with them and mix other stuff with them. And I was an absolute mess, man. It started slow. By the time I was 26, I was taking upwards of 50 a day and drinking on top of that. And then taking prescription ADHD medication just so I could stay awake on them. And it was just, I was a mess, dude. I always thought there'd be some event, I guess, that like got me sober. I guess, I don't know, maybe I watched too many movies, dude. I always felt like there would be some event that occurred, then I would grow out of it, because the character arc is everyone grows up getting into trouble and we grow out of it. You know, boy meets girl, girl straightens boy up, boy graduates college, whatever it might be. And so like the first one was graduating from school, and I graduated from college, and I was like, I don't feel any different. I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing. And addiction's progressive. And so it gets worse over time, not better. And then I thought it would be marrying my, Paige. That would be the thing. I wanted to be a good man for her. I wanted to be an adult. I wanted to be someone that she could look at and like proudly call her husband. And we got married, and that didn't do it. And then the big one for me was kids. And I thought when our daughter was born that I would straighten up, man. Like I was holding out a lot of hope had a lot of eggs in that kid basket that was going to be the thing that straightened me up. And when she was born, I remember I was holding her in the hospital that night, and I was in such bad withdrawal. It was horrible because I was trying to stop on my own, and I couldn't, man. I ended up leaving the hospital with our newborn daughter, and Paige is asleep in the room, and to go buy pills off the street. And it was like at that moment I realized like I was in major trouble, because every event that I had set up in my life or what was going to get me straight came and went, and just never did. I just never did.
So you left the hospital with a newborn child.
Well, no, she was at the hospital. I didn't go. I didn't take her with me. That wasn't until she was. She went on her first trap house run whenever she was about 5 months old. Christmas. It was the most depressing Christmas ever. She was 5 months old. My daughter on Christmas Day. I was on my way to my mother's house. It was like snowing. It was Christmas Day, and I stopped at a drug dealer's house on the way. And I had my 5-month-old daughter with me. That was one of those moments you look at your life and go, "Oh my God, is this really my life? Is this really me?"
So
and you justify it in a million crazy ways.
So you're driving to your mom's house, which that's a whole nother can of worms. and you have a 5-month-old daughter with you, your 5-month-old daughter, and you leave her in the car by herself
Yes.
in a shady part of town
Yeah.
to buy drugs.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind at that moment?
I think in those moments the brain is amazing at rationalizing dysfunction.
Yeah.
We can, if we want to put forth the effort in it, you can rationalize just about anything that you want. And so in that moment, I was like, oh, it's Christmas Day. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, how many parents have run in to grab a pack of cigarettes in the 80s and they left a kid in the car? Like, this isn't that big of a deal. I'll be fine. I come here all the time. These people are safe. But I knew that it wasn't right. And in my gut, like, I felt sick to my stomach. But I think in that moment when you're just so fixated on getting a fix that you just don't really think about it, and there had been other times where I had done something similar and I had taken her inside with me, but this time I was just running to the porch and back, and the truck, I could see it from where I was, but man, it's just crazy. It's crazy, especially thinking back on it or telling the story all these years later. It's like, that's insanity. Like, that's the kind of stuff you get your kids taken from you for. But here I was doing it, and just in my mind, it felt normal. I'm like, okay, just another day in the life, whatever.
Yeah. So this comes to a peak for you at some point because you're now 10 years sober. You're over 10 years sober. What is that, the rock bottom moment, or what's this moment where you're just sort of like, I'm done?
Yeah, man, like addiction, like I didn't really even consider myself addicted for probably the first 8 or 9 years that I was clinically addicted to something, because I always thought that I would grow out of it. You convince yourself that you can stop whenever you want, and sort of like underneath your nose, without even realizing it, you're getting worse over time, not better. So like while all this is going on, like at some point I'd been confronted about addiction. Like in high school, I was taking a lot of these things. I was taking like 20 a day. I would spend my entire paycheck on them. And like friends would go with me to pick them up because, when you're in high school, I guess everyone dabbles to some degree. So like I would have friends go with me and like we would experiment with the stuff together. And then I remember I went and I used my entire check on it. And a friend that I was with at the time like told Paige, like, I'm worried about him. Like, this is getting kind of bad. Like, this is not good. And I got confronted, and Paige told me that she was really worried about me. My friend was worried about me. And my first thought was not that I need to stop. It was that I need to hide it better. And so I had really designed a life that was like a double agent, like 2 lives. Like in one life, I was this guy on outward appearances that had it all together. You would have never suspected that I was doing what I was doing. And I became a closet addict. I became really, really good at hiding this stuff, to the point that my wife had no idea that I was using for a very long time. I tried to quit sort of quote unquote publicly for the first time when I was 21, I think. And I told her that I was taking these things and I didn't want to anymore. And it was hard to stop. But I lied about the amounts and the frequency and everything else. And I tried to downplay it so it wouldn't scare her or concern her. I didn't want people to think that I was an addict, And by the time I was like 25 or 26, like this started to just really wear me down. I think that like there's this movie called Flight with Denzel Washington. Maybe you've seen it or listeners seen it.
Oh yeah.
I
love that.
And there's this scene near the end, man. It's just, it's profound and it's amazing. And it's, he's kind of doing the same thing in the movie where he's an alcoholic and he's hiding as best he can. And he's trying to deny the fact that it's as bad as it really is. And he's sitting before like this hearing or this panel, and it's like regarding a crash of an airplane. And he says in the moment, like as they ask him a question about drinking, he's like, in that moment, I just reached my lifelong limit of lies and I couldn't tell another lie. It's like I had just gotten to the point where I could no longer be dishonest about anything. And that's my experience with this thing. I went on a business trip when I was 26 years old, and our daughter was 9 months old at the time. At this point in my life, where I had projected myself to be and where I actually was were vastly different. There's a lot of dissonance between those two people. And I was starting to kind of pop at the seams. When you become a parent, so much more is required of you, not just like physically, like going to work and coming home and the late nights and all that, but emotionally. And I had no tools for that. I had no tools for stress management. I had no tools for the sadness that is sort of like distance that grows between you and your spouse as you're worried about taking care of this baby. And kids don't come with instruction manuals, but nor do marriages whenever you're going through something like that. And so I was struggling in a million ways that I couldn't really describe. And I was getting really depressed and things were getting dark. And I was starting to think about just ending it. Like, would people just be better off without me? Like, it's just the worst thing in the world if I overdose. Because the amounts I was taking, like, it was a matter of time, like 50 to 60 pills per day. And the cost of keeping that habit up is another issue in itself. I mean, at one point, my habit was like $300 a day. And like, we weren't making that much money. Paige and I were both working full time, and we were broke, man, like broke. Like, my aunt was our landlord, and on a very regular basis, I was calling her and telling her like, can we pay rent like next week? And I always had some excuse about like, the way that the payment dates fell or whatever it was. Like, Paige couldn't. I remember one time she would run out of gas and we didn't have money to get gas. Like, we didn't have groceries. Like, our account was very used to being overdrawn, like on a regular basis. Like, it was very common to open it up in the app and see a negative red number. And that started to weigh on us as well. So I went on this business trip to Las Vegas, of all places. And before I left, we had this big talk, and it was like, hey, you cannot spend any money while you're out there. And my wife was, a lot of people were like, how the hell did she not know what was going on? It's because like manipulative people are really good at what we do. And like, when someone trusts us and they believe us, like, we can sell them anything. Yeah. And so I had all these excuses for where this money was going. I pulled a lot of cash out, and I had all this stupid shit that I would tell her about where the money was going. She was busy working full time, taking care of our child, working through her own postpartum depression, like the new role of being a mother. Yeah. She just trusted me. I graduated with a degree in finance. She trusted me to look over our finances, and I took advantage of it. I took advantage of that. And so we were in Vegas, and at this point in my life, I was really trying to stop. And I tried to stop on my own more times than I can count. And I relapsed probably 100 times before I finally got it. I took so it was a 3-day trip to Vegas. I think I took like 30 or 40 pills with me, which was enough to get me through those 3 days. And my goal was to taper down. And I would, take X amount day 1, X amount day 2, day 3. By day 4, I would come home, and the withdrawals from the opioids would be manageable, because withdrawal was so painful. And it would be blatantly obvious that something was up, if I just tried to stop on my own, like cold turkey. But like any good addict, night one, as soon as the first one hit my system, I couldn't stop myself. And I took every pill that I brought, and I blacked out, and I found myself at an ATM machine, and I basically emptied our account and don't even recall it. And I woke up the next morning to my phone ringing. And it was weird. Those moments when your phone's ringing and you can tell it's been ringing for a long time? It was like that. And I looked at my phone, and I had like 13 missed calls or something, and they were all from my wife. And my heart just sank, and I was like, oh, no. Yeah. I picked it up, and the sound in her voice was different this time. She wasn't mad at me. She wasn't calling to berate me. She wasn't even like really like hurt. Like, she was done. There was a sound of indifference that I had never heard before. In that moment, I knew that she was done. She was tired, and she was done with me. And I think that she was calling me to say, I am not doing this anymore. And I happened to just beat her to the punch. In that moment, like, I felt this overwhelming sensation that the jig was up, and it was time to be honest, and it was time to start living differently. And this has all been kind of like weighing on me in the prior year, becoming a new dad and everything else. And in that moment, I was just like, I've got to do something. And I just got honest with her. And I told her, like, I've got a serious problem, and I've tried to stop, and I can't, and I'm scared, and I don't know what to do. And she had just enough patience left in her where she was like, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? And I was like, I think I need to go to rehab. Like, that's for celebrities. That's where they go. Like, I'd seen everything I ever knew about like 12-step recovery came from the movie Fight Club. That was about it. I knew that musicians and like artists went to rehab, and they came out, and their movies were good afterwards. So they had to be doing something right in there. Like, my family member of mine had gotten sober before me. So like, I knew it was possible, but I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't exactly know what it looked like. I didn't know if I'd be married when I got out of there. I didn't know what was coming, man. I just knew that like, I was either going to die or this was going to work. Those were my only options. And that was kind of that was the turning point in my life. And like, rock bottom, I don't know, man. For me, it didn't feel like, it wasn't some cataclysmic event that like sent me to that point. I think it was death by 1,000 cuts. And it was just the weight of like truly wanting to be a better person, and then letting yourself down time and time and time again, and then hurting the people that you love more than you even hurt yourself. Like, that was humiliating. And like, I felt immense shame and like guilt and frustration with myself in that moment. But I think that's kind of the point that just about everyone will come to. And you can do one of two things with it. You can turn it inward and hate yourself even more and continue down the path, or you can alchemize it and you can do something powerful with it, and you can use it for strength and to move forward and to at the very least try, and like you can have these really powerful thoughts. And I think that I'm a big baseball fan, Red Sox fan. I'm sitting here wearing my Red Sox shirt here. So they're in the playoffs, up 1-0 against the Yankees, by the way. By the time this comes out, I hope that we'll be World Series champs. We'll see. Time will tell. But either way, the 2004 Red Sox team hadn't won a World Series in 86 years, and they were believed to be cursed, the curse of the Bambino.
Curse of the Bambino, yeah.
And in 2004, that team, which was made up of...
Everything I know about baseball, by the way, comes from the movie Sandlot. So,
okay. Okay. Pretty basic baseball knowledge, but one of the best baseball films ever made still.
Yeah.
But, the Red Sox in 2004 they were down 3-0 against the Yankees in the ALCS. And the chances of a team coming back from that were literally 0% because no team had ever done it in the history of baseball. And they came back and won 4 straight to do something that no team had ever done. And then they went on to win 4 more in a row, 8 games in a row to win the World Series and to break the curse. But the team had a mantra, and it was why not us? Why not us? Like, show me in the rule book where it says a team can't come back. Mm-hmm. Show me in the rule book where it says that you can't come back from this, that you can't persevere, that regardless of what happened before, that we can't continue. And I remember having that thought when I was checking into treatment. I was like, the statistics are bleak, man. Like, roughly 5% of people that come out of there will be sober in a year, like 1 in 20. And I remember just looking around the room thinking, well, why not me? Why can't that be me? I remember looking at the other 19 poor souls in that room thinking, it sucks to be you.
Sucks to be you.
It sucks to be you. I'm going to figure this out. And I just got to work. And the only thing I've ever taken as prescribed was the advice I got in treatment. That's the only thing in my life. Ask any doctor I've ever had. It's the only thing in my life I've ever done as prescribed.
Yeah, I think.
And it worked.
I think the first time I met you was like 3-4 years ago. You were just like taking a fistful of like Tylenol, Advil mashup.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I was like, I don't think that's prescribed that way, Matt.
Yeah, dude, and that's something else. Like, I have every reason in the world to continue to take opioids, but I don't. I have chronic pain. I broke my back in my 20s, and it's degenerative, and I've got herniated discs, and I've had surgeries, and I've had probably, I would say, close to 30 sets of injections where I go like under anesthesia, and they go in there and they put medicine in the joints to try to make it not hurt so bad. But yeah, dude, I will chew up some over-the-counter pain meds. Within daily limits, usually.
So you go into treatment, you go into rehab, and then you come out. What as you come out, what was the hardest part of sobriety?
In the early days, I think it was like quite simply like being physically sober and like feeling better because I was no longer like physically dependent on the drugs, but mentally I had very few tools that a guy my age should have. Like, I do believe that addiction is a form of arrested development, and your growth is stunted developmentally and emotionally. And whenever I got sober at 26, I felt like I was 17 emotionally, like truly, like the tools that I had to deal with real adult problems were not there. And so it was a really, really rocky first year. Like, the first year of sobriety sucks. It sucks. There's no easy way to spend it. You will have good moments. You will be filled with gratitude at times because it's still better than that hopeless feeling that this doesn't get any better. Like, at least you know that you're investing in a future, but it's awful. Like, you laugh when you should be crying, you cry when you should be laughing, you stress out, you fly off the handle, and your relationships are incredibly rocky. You don't know yourself. It's scary. Like, you feel like you're walking around with brand new legs. And I don't mean to sound dramatic about it. Like, this was my experience. It was weird. It felt it was so rocky. Like, I just remember feeling that there were some days where I would be so frustrated with myself because I could see other adults going about their lives seemingly like out of routine. And here I am like flipping out that I've gotten another email or someone has asked me to do something that's well within my job description that I just don't have the tools to deal with stress on. Here's a traffic jam and like being frustrated with that and like having to actually think and process and rationalize like cognitively, like, it's okay. Like, acceptance is the answer. This is just another traffic jam. It's okay. And then like, it's still rocky on the marriage, know, like I think that we like to think that whenever you get sober, you feel better. And it's true. Like you'll feel better. You feel anger better. You feel sadness better. You feel anxiety better. You feel depression better. You feel for the first time in a very, very long time. And like I think it's like a freight train. Addiction is sort of like a freight train. You can stop pulling that freight train, but it doesn't stop rolling. It continues to roll. And the consequences from that continue to roll over you and steamroll your life long after the substance has left. And so there was a huge disconnect in our marriage. But in my mind, I was like, oh, we're good. Like everything's fine. Like we're okay. Like everything's better. We dodged a bullet there. We're going to be good, without ever really addressing the things that had transpired in the previous 10 years that I had been addicted. Like the abuse, the emotional, the psychological abuse that I had dished out onto her, the lying and what that had done to her psyche, and the lack of safety and like real intimacy in the relationship. There was none of that. And I guess we just pretended for that first year. We really did, like really pretended that everything was going to be okay and like everything's good. Once again, like she's too busy raising children and I'm still learning how to like be an adult. And recovery, just as much as addiction, I think is very selfish. And people attack me for saying that, but I'm not going to stop saying it. If you look at what selfish, the definition, it's lack of consideration of others. Yeah. And that's physically what I was doing. We can say my intentions were different, but I was going to 12-step meetings or IOP or something just every single night. And I wasn't at home with my family and I wasn't supporting her. It was a weird time, man. That first year was a really, really weird time. And then like you sort of rebuild little by slow, like trust is lost in buckets and it's built back in little tiny droplets. And it takes a very, very long time to reestablish safety in a relationship. And so it was rocky, but I think that it's a necessary pain that everyone who walks down that path will have to go through. And it shouldn't keep you from it because the lessons you learn there are so valuable. And you catch up pretty quick. Like I like to think now that I'm on the level of everyone else my age. Like within that first year or 2 years, I caught up pretty quickly. You learn, it's like drinking through a fire hose. You learn pretty quickly how to process emotions. And I think the most valuable lesson I ever learned in recovery is how to experience an emotion from the beginning all the way to the end, uninterrupted. Yeah. Because as soon as I would feel something, whether that was good or bad, I knew how to either increase or decrease that emotion. And it was through the use of chemicals. I would feeling sad, I can make that go away. Feeling happy, let's get happier. Let's turn it up, but never how to actually experience my emotions as intended from the beginning all the way to the end. And every time you don't allow yourself to do that, you miss out on a lesson that is the fabric of being an adult and being a human. And that's what my experience in those first few years of recovery was. It was learning all over how to walk again and how to be an adult and screwing it up more times than I can possibly count.
So in rehab, I think you got some advice that you ignored?
No, I followed the advice.
No. As I recall, you specifically rejected one piece of advice related to your wife.
I don't follow. Which part?
Yeah, you told me once that they had recommended you take all the alcohol out of your house.
Oh, that. Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. Yeah. So whenever you're in treatment, they generally have like a family education weekend. Your family will show up and they'll educate them on addiction and things like that. And one of the pieces of advice that my therapist had given my wife was that you need to remove all the alcohol from the home. You need to create an environment that is conducive to sobriety. You need to make this a safe place for him. You have to support him. And immediately I said, no, no. We are not doing that. That is not the way that any of this works. If I'm going to learn how to be sober in the world, I have got to expose myself to a world that is obsessed with alcohol. At some point, it's going to come up. What better place to learn it than in my own home? And so like I almost craved the challenge of having it in the home and saying, you can if you want to. Just don't lie to yourself. It will end in abject failure like it has every other time. And so I drank that in, like that challenge. And my wife didn't go along with my insistence. In the beginning, she did keep alcohol out of the home because she wasn't sure how much of this was like old me lying and placating and appearing as if. But pretty quickly, she was like, oh, he's for real about this. We would go out and, she would have a drink or I would be around people who were drinking. And like early on, like I had boundaries for myself. I had a code word. I don't remember what the code word even was, but we went to like a Memorial Day party when I was pretty freshly sober. And I was like, if I say banana or whatever it was, that means that I've given it everything. But this is too triggering and this is just too much for me. We got to go.
Or I'm getting a drink. One of the two.
Yeah, more or less. Like, and I think we were at that party for 2 to 3 hours, and we left because it got really hot and people just started to act crazy. Like, drunk people are still like really fun to a point, but at some point they become like, they're close talkers and they spit when they talk and they just repeat themselves over and over and over. They get real grandiose, and I'm like, okay, this isn't about the alcohol. This is just about people are annoying right now, and so let's just go, you know. But I exposed myself to all kinds of environments really early on, and in the insistence that no one else change the way that they operate because of me. If this is going to work, I'm going to have to operate in the world. Like, let's stop asking the world to. I've asked the world to adjust to my expectations my entire life, and it worked real well for me, let me tell you. So how about I adjust myself for the world? Yeah. Me try to adjust my attitudes and my expectations of the world itself, and let me see if I can be part of the world rather than the center of it. And it's not to demean anyone or disparage anyone that needs that sort of environment. I took a very like Navy SEAL approach to it, where it's like, let's expose ourselves to it, let's figure out how to live with it, let's endure all the pain, and let's get used to it.
The only easy day was yesterday.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's an amazing story, man.
Yeah, and you know, now they're better. We like, I've been sober now 12 years. It'll be 13 this next spring. And at this point, it feels second nature. Like, I don't even remember really what it was like to be such a slave to something. Like, if I spend enough time around recovery and around people, it keeps it fresh for me. And I think that there's some part about that is valuable. Like, I volunteer time 2 to 3 times a month now to go speak to people at the treatment center that I got sober at. I stay in touch with people who are in the grips of it, and I still help people to the degree that I can support them in their own sobriety efforts. But we've really shifted. My wife and I recognize this is years into recovery. I've always been a fan of podcasts, and I was like, hey, we should start a podcast. And in the beginning, it was going to be just about lessons that we'd learned as a couple that had been together since we were, kids. Because I think that everyone likes to think of their relationship or their marriage as like unique in some way. And like, arrogantly, we believe that everyone else is just doing it wrong. Therefore, we need to buy microphones and tell them about it. And so we started off naive through that journey. And like, for the first 5 or 6 episodes, it was really just about life skills that we had learned, things that we'd picked up. And I don't think it was bad information by any means, like helpful stuff. Like, and you can kind of see newer couples struggling. And so you just want to provide some, experience. Maybe you don't have to learn that lesson as hard as we did. Here's how we handled XYZ, whatever it was. And then we told the story about addiction at some point, and we got a lot of feedback on it. And then we told the perspective from my wife about what it was like for her, and the feedback was insane. And it was in that moment we realized, like, spouses and partners really don't get a lot of support through this thing. Like, they don't, man. Like, there is so much addiction education out there. It's almost too much. I'm not sure you could ever have too much, but it feels that way. It feels like we are force feeding everyone who will listen information about the disease of addiction and how much this affects the brain and how much they're struggling. And if you think about it though, like, if one addicted person, how many people do they affect on a daily basis? This can be your children, this can be your wife, your spouse, or your parents, or your siblings, or your coworkers. And we're talking about dozens of people that are affected by one person who's struggling with addiction. And what about their stories? And what are they told? Generally, they're told, like, blanketed, that they're codependent. That's the first thing they're told. You are codependent. You were broken before you ever saw him. There must be something wrong with you to tolerate this kind of person, without understanding trauma bonds and how betrayal trauma affects the brain, without giving these people like real support. Like, they have a 12-step program of their own called Al-Anon. I think there's some good things that are discussed there. I think that there's some rather dangerous things that are discussed there when it comes to spouses and partners. And so we've become huge advocates for the other side of addiction. I will continue to fight the fight of recovery with people who are in it, but our mission is now to support spouses and partners so that they don't have to go through the same things that we went through. Like, from day one, whenever Paige was dragged into that family education program at my treatment center, some of the stuff she could nod her head along, some of the other stuff they would talk about, she's like, that feels off. No, I didn't do any of that stuff. Like, that's kind of okay. I'll go along with it. They're the experts. I'll listen. Mm-hmm. And we really started to, I think, advocate for common sense approaches to supporting spouses and partners. You and I have talked about this, and we developed a course together
we did.
to help spouses and partners that kind of complements the show and everything else. And we have a ton of free resources, and it's become a mission at this point. I think that, like, spouses and partners, it is insisted It is mandatory that you learn about how your loved one is affected so that you can support them better. Nobody is talking about how to better support spouses and partners that go through this. And we're not acknowledging the hard reality that many people will never achieve recovery, meaningful recovery anyway. They just won't. That's a fact. And if we're going to acknowledge that this person is struggling with addiction, a disease, and something that is very difficult to stop, like, okay, we also need to acknowledge that recovery is possible, For as many people say it's hard, I know it's hard. I know it's very difficult. And it feels impossible, but it's not impossible. And that is a fact. And we need to also acknowledge the fact that many of them will never choose that path. Like, addiction is a process bookended by choices. At some point, I made a choice. I made a choice at some point in my youth, a dumb choice, to pick up. And it started a chain reaction that I had no control over. In the midst of addiction, it felt like I had no choice. It was compulsive.
Yeah.
But then I made another choice, didn't I? I made a choice to get help. I made a choice every day to show up and treat that ailment that I had. And that's a reality. You know, I think that the more that we tell people, you just need to support them better. You just need to understand addiction better. Like, how many of those people are we putting in more damaging situations over time for those that will never choose recovery? And so as much as we want to minimize the pain of the person struggling with addiction, we are more or less just reallocating it to healthy people, otherwise healthy people, spouses and partners and families. And we've become huge advocates for it. And we take a lot of heat for it, but we'll never apologize for it. I don't think it's wrong. It's just, it flies in the face of everything that we've kind of been conditioned when it comes to addiction recovery in the last, 60 years or so.
What words of encouragement for anyone listening today that maybe is struggling or thinking about sobriety, or maybe has a loved one who is thinking about sobriety?
Solution either. I got sober working through traditional 12-step program. That is not the only way to get sober. There are various paths and forms of recovery. But I think that all forms of recovery are going to have to address the behaviors, the ideas, and the attitudes underlying everything. If you think you're just going to put a substance down, take a baby's pacifier away and watch what happens to it. That's kind of the experience. You can be sober and miserable. And I had been down that path many times. I had been sober and miserable, and I had been not sober and quite happy, but never was able to marry the two, sobriety and happiness. And I think that there's a various ways to skin that cat. I'd encourage anyone to explore what that means for you. As long as you're addressing the behaviors, you're on the right track. I truly believe that. So whether that's, medication assisted treatment with drugs like naltrexone or something like Suboxone, but don't just do that, work on the behavioral piece as well with therapy, with TCG. Call TCG if you're going to be using this stuff. You can't just remove that from your life and expect to get better. And I think for spouses and partners, man, it's a much more complicated journey, isn't it? Because we have to acknowledge, like, there are people who will never give up on somebody. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think that you just have to really look at the facts of the situation and your own life, and remember that you too deserve to be happy, and that you are not a martyr for someone else and their failure to make a choice in their own recovery. Mm-hmm. And as much as it feels like you're helpless, like, there is a way to truly love people and provide healthy boundaries that keep you and your children safe. And it doesn't look like just falling to the whims of whatever the addicted person wants or needs. You don't have to tolerate abuse. And so much of what we call quote unquote addiction is just simply abuse. And I think that so many spouses and partners are just told how to tolerate abuse better. If we just teach them more about addiction, then it will help them tolerate the abuse better. And I think that so much of addiction education for spouses and partners here over the last 30, 40 years has been focused on keeping the family unit together. And believe me, I believe in families. I think that families they strengthen society and our culture as a country, and I believe in families. But I don't believe that every family system is a healthy one. I don't believe that every child needs to be in an unhealthy family system. And as long as you have one safe parent, I think that it's better than having an abusive one. And so I think that we do have to have a conversation about, like, there comes a time where you have to save yourself. And that's a hard reality that no one wants to say out loud, but, like, we will. It's the truth. So spouses, partners can get help in a multitude of ways. We've got a show called Till the Wheels Fall Off. We've got a free online community. You can find out, go to twfo.com. You can find out about the show and everything else. We've got an online program that we built with Dr. Taylor called Independently Strong. And it's designed to help you reclaim yourself and show you what healthy boundaries look like, and show you for many people, how to make the decision, should I stay or should I go? And there's not a blanket decision for everyone. I just want to let people know, like, it is an option that sometimes you might have to leave to save yourself, and that's not the worst thing in the entire world. Is it sad? Yes. No one's going to say it's not, but there's help out there for you. There are 12-step programs as well. I think you can learn some good things there. I think you can also learn just how to tolerate abuse better there. But some people find a lot of help, and I think that's amazing. But other than that, there's not a hell of a lot. Smart recovery for families and spouses is another option. I think it's time we start advocating for more than one person in the addicted relationship. And this is coming from me, someone who was that guy, someone who was struggling. But over the last few years that we've been developing the show and whatnot, we've really I've gotten to hear the stories of spouses and partners and develop real empathy for what they're dealing with. Because on the surface, we're so focused on getting this addicted person well that we ask so much of people to get them that way.
Yeah.
And to see so few that actually do it, I have to ask myself the question, like, if a utilitarian goal, the greatest good for the greatest number is what we're after, we have to acknowledge that would involve, in many cases, if not most cases, getting families, spouses, and partners to safety and not reallocating their pain.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Matt, for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Robinson, Vanilla. Not that great.
Not that great, not extraordinary, but not bad either.
Not bad.
That sums me up in a nutshell, I think. I'm not extraordinary by any means, but I'm also not the worst. It's vanilla. But it just happens to also be my favorite ice cream flavor. I think it's the greatest.
It is the greatest.
It is, dude. It's the base of all great things.
Well, if you or somebody you love are struggling with addiction, we'll have all of that information in our show notes. Obviously, I am biased, but I agree therapy is a powerful tool. This has been for Self-Examination. Thank you very much, Matt, for joining us. And remember, always be curious.
Thanks for having me, man.